In this tutorial, I hope I'm going to save you some stress about the metronome, but this will only pertain to those of you who are using the control room like I do. I love the control room inside of Cubase, and so I've been using it for a long time, but because they've changed and improved how the control room works in Cubase 7, it really threw me for a loop when I went to start working with the metronome. So let's see which version of monitoring you're using, whether you're using a standard monitoring setup or whether you're taking advantage of the Cubase control room. And to find out, you can go under the Devices pull-down menu and select VST Connections, or the keyboard shortcut for that is F4. Now, when the VST connection window appears, what you're going to do is go to the Outputs tab at the top of the screen here, and you'll notice that right now I don't have anything connected to my stereo output. That's because I'm using the control room. If you're not using the control room, chances are you're using the first stereo output on your audio interface to connect to your studio monitors. So in that situation, you would see your audio interface connected here at the stereo output. And that means that this video isn't going to pertain to you. However, if you're like me and you like using the control room, let's click on Studio, and you'll notice that I do have my connections, or at least a few connections, made here in my control room, and most importantly, the power for the control room is turned on. So this means I'm using the control room for controlling my monitoring setup and headphone mixes. And so, since I wanted to start using Cubase straight away and I wanted to start doing some recording, I went to record, but I could not hear the metronome. And it took me about an hour before I figured out what was different about this setup and how to get it to work. So hopefully I'm going to save you some time if you're a control room user. So what I'm going to do is go to the Devices pull-down menu and select Mix Console. Now we're going to get really deep into the Mix Console in the next section, but for right now, go ahead and click on Mix Console. That will open up the brand new Cubase Mixer, and then at the top of the screen here, you'll see a little button that you may have worked with before, but never in the mixer. The Mix Console now has this Window Layout button. So click on that Window Layout button and make sure that your control room and meter is enabled. And then you can close that window layout window by clicking outside of the window anywhere. And now you're looking at the mixer. Now, the first thing you'll want to do is in this new section that has appeared over here, you'll want to make sure that you have the control room tab clicked and that you have the mixer button clicked down here. And then here are your settings for the control room. Now, some of the controls already appear, like the source button is set to mix right now, and the dim and talkback enable buttons, but I could not figure out where the metronome was. Well, here it is. If you click on control room right here, that will open up all of those other settings for the control room, including the all-important click track, so that if you're just doing some recording on your own, you're not recording anybody else, so you want to hear the metronome through your studio monitors, you'll need to make sure that that click button is on. If it's not, you won't hear the click track coming through the studio monitors. And there's some ways to get it into the studio monitors, but if you enable the click here in the control room, then you'll be able to hear the click track when you're working on your own projects. So now that we know how to configure Cubase 7 to work on our computer, it's time to start diving into all the new features. So in the next section, we're going to go through this awesome new Mix Console.